Good afternoon, y'all. Today's message is disaster by design. Like I said before, I've been putting this list together for about a year, a little less than a year, almost a year. We're getting up there. It's called Disaster by Design, and the definition of a disaster, one definition that I found that aligns with what I have to say, is a serious disruption to the functioning of a community that exceeds its capacity to cope using its own resources. A serious disruption to the functioning of a community or a person, or however this is going to apply, that exceeds its capacity to cope using its own resources, your own knowledge, and your own strategies and your own skills is not going to be enough when disaster strikes. But it was designed that way because He is the Almighty God and all glory belongs to Him. Why you're not equipped to handle everything that this life has for you. That is why you're having a difficult time handling some things, is because you're being your own God and you're trying to do it in your own strength, and you're not equipped to do so. So, we have Exodus chapter 7, and this is not an unfamiliar text. This is let my people go. This is Moses and his brother Aaron approaching Pharaoh via God's instruction to instruct Pharaoh that yes, these Israelites you can no longer hold on to these Israelites, and that's just that. So I was on the phone with somebody when I got the message, when I was studying for the message, and I was reading, and I was like, God hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he wouldn't let the people go. And the person on the phone was like, that's not fair, that's not free will. And if you know me, you're not gonna play with God, not in my face. So, and instead of, I didn't get mad or try to argue with him or anything like that. I just kept reading because I knew, just like I was saying in another message, that God will use these people. So as I continued reading, I understood that, and this kind of blew my mind, honestly, that it was more about the Egyptians, not the Israelites. It was more about the Egyptians than it was about Pharaoh. And what drives this home for me is that in verse 11, Pharaoh's response. So this is what happened. God told Moses, when Pharaoh tells you to prove yourself, have your brother Aaron throw down his staff and it will become a serpent. And they did as God told them to do, and that's what happened. He threw down the staff and it became a serpent. Pharaoh's response indicates to me that he's what we call today an atheist, because Pharaoh's response was to call the wise man, I might have to grab my Bible, the wise men, the sorcerers, and the magicians in the community, which essentially he called people who could do black magic. Because what does an atheist do but try and prove that, that wasn't God, that was this. Oh, that wasn't God, that was that. God knew he was going to do this. The story that you heard in Sunday school when you were little has nothing on reading it again as an adult. So, verse 5, God says, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. That's what this whole thing was really about. I mean, of course, he wanted the Israelites. The Israelites were God's own people. But the whole way that things played out, and the fact that he hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would resist, was so that the so that the Egyptians would know that he is God, right? So, let me grab my Bible. So while Pharaoh is, verse 11 says, and I'm reading from the NKJV. Then Pharaoh summoned the wise men and the sorcerers, and they, the magicians of Egypt, also did the same by their secret arts, aka black magic. So Verse 5, God says, the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring out the people of Israel from among them. So I have to use my context clues, because we all know that the Bible, has been translated into English, and there are things taken out, there are things added in, and this is not something that caught God by surprise. This is why God put it in us. Those of us who seek the truth, and those of us who analyze things, and those of us who pray about things, God, tell me the truth and show me what the truth is. So while Pharaoh is going around with these sorcerers and these people doing this black magic, and essentially, because he's the king, he has influence over the Egyptians, and he's influencing the Egyptians to think, that that the miracles of God are not the miracles of God. So God unleashed all of these plagues, and I believe further into the story that Pharaoh continued to do this, to call the sorcerers and stuff to try and perform the same things, that the miracles that God had done through Moses and Aaron, right? And the whole point of explaining this story to you is that disaster by design is that sometimes we can be in what we would call a disaster. And what was that? A serious disruption to our functioning that we ourselves cannot get out of because we can't use our own resources. God will do this for his glory. God will do this to use you to help other people to be set free. The Egyptians needed to know that he was God and he was the Lord. That did not make them exempt from experiencing the boils and the different plagues that took place, the locusts and the gnats, and when they turned the water into blood and the fish died and it had a rank smell, and I can't imagine how bad the smell was, because he had them touch every body of water that these people had, the rivers, the ponds, like all of it. You got to get into the story. It's really good. So sometimes you'll be in a place that feels disastrous, but God has a plan, and in order for that plan to be executed, sometimes he needs you to think that there's no way out. Because if you know that there's a way out, you won't have that look on your face that you need to have for the people to feel like they're overcoming. You won't have that feeling come over you to where you're crying out to him. His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. But we cannot forget that he is God, that he is merciful, that he is loving. If his mercies are new every single day, that means that every single day you got to wake up and know that that's your day. 2024 is my year. No, how about what's today? February 29th is my day. And so is March 1st. And so is March 2nd. Because his mercies are new every morning. Yes, it looks like a disaster. Yes, it looks like there's no way out. He has various reasons for doing it. And Ecclesiastes 3:11 lets us know that you're not even going to be able to figure it out. You're not going to figure out his work from beginning to end, it says in Ecclesiastes 3. We spend a lot of time asking God why, trying to figure out why, and feeling as if you didn't deserve what you went through. It wasn't about, oh, I'm going to punish him. Oh, I'm going to punish her, or I'm going to let her go through this hard time. If God doesn't have a plan already, and God has said plan, he's taken everything into account. Your emotions, the things that you've been through that cause you to think, the types of thought patterns that you have, everybody involved, and all of that with them too. He has taken everything into account, and it is all for one cause, and well, not always just one. Because God is really the coldest. Y'all, what y'all not going to do is keep sleeping on God. But just know that it is a disaster by design. He designed it that way. It's set up that way. You don't need to know everything. Your kids ever asking you, where we going? Are we there yet? What we having for dinner? You don't need to know everything because you're his child. You need not know everything. Just know that it was designed that way, and he's fighting on your behalf, and he is on your side, and nobody, and I mean nobody, loves you more than he does. So rest in that. I love y'all so much.